It is beyond crunch time. I want you to listen very, very carefully. I don't want you to jump up and down and scream and yell and celebrate everything because now is when it gets really, really scary. They have 16 days until the actual physical day, until D Day at the polls. There are still cases and still examples and still votes that are occurring now. Now, a couple of things. Listen to Uncle Lenny. We have a lot to talk about today. I've got warnings, I've got examples, and I've got absolute reasons to enjoy a degree of elation, the likes of which you have never known. So do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Listen and listen carefully. Let me remind you, dear friends, that this show, today's broadcast, is brought to you by our great friends at preparewithlionel.com. You can secure your Mega Maga 3-month emergency food kit that is the greatest. Entry level, it's the McMansion of emergency food. You get $508 in free extras for a limited time. Now, right now, when people think like, well, we dodged a bullet with Helene and Milton. Well, now is the time to prepare because I am telling you something you know, and those of us in the community know, those of us who are conspirators. January 20th is the handoff date. And if you think that this country is immune from another George Floyd, do you think BLM went away? Do you think Antifa went away? Do you think dock strikes are important or impossible? Do you think that ransomware breakdowns? Remember that one week where all gas stations were shut down for ransomware? Do you think white balloons and Chinese? I mean, do you think seriously? And I don't want to kill your day here, but do you think that we have nothing to worry about anymore? Because of Donald Trump being in office? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. It's great. It's good. I'm happy. I'm elated, but it's never, ever going to be the coast is clear. Preparewithlionel.com, my friends. Prepare with Lionel. And one more time, one more mention, our good friends at mypillow.com, promo code Lionel. You see the way you do this? You put mypillow.com/Lionel, and you get a free gift from our great friend at mypillow.com. Where do we begin? First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, and also a great hello to Sandy Sivitz, our new member. Thank you so much, Sandy. Rule number 1, are you listening to this? And tell everybody you know, do not repeat, do not put pictures of your ballot online. Do not take pictures of your write-in ballot. Do not take pictures of you in the booth, maybe at the voting booth. Maybe you pull out your phone and there's the ballot. You take a picture of it and do not do it. It is against the law in a number of jurisdictions all over the country. I don't know when they last prosecuted it. I don't know if they have criminal sanctions. Do not become an example for these rat bastards to use as some kind of a voting, who knows, to maybe invalidate a precinct selection. You think I'm kidding. You see, what you've got to do with these people is you always have to remember, you always have to prepare for unrest. This is it. Varya said it best. Prepare for the worst. Prepare for the worst. Okay? Understand something. A storm is brewing. They're not going to all of a sudden say, okay, you won fair and square. Have a nice day. Did you hear what Jamie Raskin said? Now listen, Listen, let me explain something to you. Now listen to Uncle Lenny here, because you know I love you. Paranoia is an unrealistic fear, either regarding the fear itself or unrealistic in terms of the degree of the fear. I think it's important to be a little fearful of spiders. There's the brown recluse spider, there's the black widow. Arachnophobia is a different story. Not wanting to go outside because you might see a spider is paranoia. That's also a phobia. That's a very serious thing. Okay. Having a respect for spiders is one thing, or snakes, or this is a different story. You understand what I'm saying? So we're not going to live our life in absolute dread, but you always must understand, what is it? How do we live? There used to be a service. I don't know if they even have this anymore because it's very dangerous. Out of work burglars, people who used to be burglars, people. And remember, a lot of security people are themselves a little shady. They would actually come to your home, and it's weird because you don't know if you want to do this, because you're basically telling them, "Hey, this is how can you breach my home?" Well, come on, come on in, and but they will look at points of entry. They'll look at trees. They'll look at darkness. They'll look at the amount of people during the day. They'll case the joint. They say, this is a bad neighborhood because a lot of people are, a lot of kids and people in traffic. I don't like this. Do you have a dog? Do you have this? You have to ask yourself, what are we planning? The first thing that you must understand, dear friend, is that the people that run the world, I affectionately refer to as the shadow government. You can call it, deep state, call it whatever you want. I don't know. Whatever works for you. But it's a group of people who really don't care who's involved, who's in charge. They really don't care. It means nothing to them. But they love chaos. Chaos is where there's problems. Have you ever heard about free radicals? You ever heard about antioxidants? You know how this thing works? When you have two perfectly placed and paired electrons in the outer valence spinning around theoretically in that old model, when one electron is cleaved and you have the ionization, you cleave an electron, all of a sudden becomes very, very unstable and very active. Very active, very, very dangerous. And it will look for something to adhere to it, and it'll find something to pair up, to mate, to secure stability. And this is when things get scary. Antioxidants prevent that. So whenever there's something that is out of order, the deep state loves the idea of this. And by the way, remember something. Ricardo, CoQ10, turmeric, eat the foods. Eat, eat, eat. Don't go into a GNC and say, "Hey, can I get a bottle of CoQ10?" No, get something that has it. Bioavailable, phytonutrients. Don't talk about hey, it's good, the D and the K. No, buy it. Don't buy biotin. Eat something with biotin in it. That's all. Just remember this. Just remember, we have this thing where we go into a health food store. Give me a bottle of something, or bottle, as they say here. Give me a bottle of something. Don't give me vitamin C. Give me a vitamin C. Give me a bottle. Let me take 1,000 milligrams, a gram of C. In this, is it bioavailable? I don't know. Do you piss it out? I don't know. It looks good. And 500 milligrams, it's not. Eat your foods. Eat it. Eat. Eat. Eat your food. You have no idea how little it takes for you to get the power punch of phytonutrients. Green, dark, leafy things are just, oh my God, you have no idea. Stop thinking bottles. They're good. Some things you have to. Every Saturday, without fail, Every Saturday, I take a B12 sublingual. Every Saturday. I forget the number. My B12 numbers are fine. Just because that's it. D3, I take every day in the form of I take a vegan capsule, no gelatin. Anyway, D3 every single day. Every single day. Don't take too much of it. But there's no way. And there is a wonderful, wonderful, believe it or not fish oils, because there's a problem with that, but kind of like the omegas, but there's a vegan formula about it. And that's it. The rest of it's okay, and it's not going to kill you. But I just want everybody to stop. When they say CoQ10, thinking, no, you're thinking of a bottle or something. You're thinking of a bottle. That's all I want to tell you. That's all I'm going to tell you. Be natural. Be natural. You have no earthly idea. And while we're on this subject, if you want to do one thing that I have been doing for, I don't know, 20 years, I don't know, who knows, every single day without fail, listen to Uncle Lenny. So easy. Antioxidants, anti-inflammatory. Oh my God. Flax seed. Forget hemp. Those are nice. Forget chia. Forget that. Just do me a favor. Don't always people. You say something and say, well, "What about chia?" No. This is what I'm saying. Flax seeds, whole, not ground, not milled, not the oil. Whole. They look like bed bugs. They look like little brown little bugs. Flax seed, whole. Get a pepper, a food grinder, one of those little things, and grind them. They're good for like a week. Every day, somehow, soups, oatmeal, I don't care how you get it. Keep it in the fridge. 2 good tablespoonfuls every single day. If you tried to mimic the antioxidant qualities of that in food, in tablet, you can't do it. It is off the charts. It is so simple. It's so easy. Not whole, not grind. I mean, but you grind them fresh. That's all I'm going to tell you. And then we're going to get off the health thing. The simplest thing. I like stuff that's simple. Forget the rest of it. You don't have to go and make a bag of seeds. That's it. It costs nothing. That's it. You can throw it into food. You don't even taste it. It's got a nutty taste. It's wonderful. Michael Greger on flax seeds, first thing. Unbelievable. We're going to leave it at that because there's 2 things. Never talk to people about food because everybody is an expert, like they are with law, the Constitution, history. Everybody. Don't get it. Never talk about it. Talk about Israel and Gaza. You'll get away with it easier than talking about the all protein paleo diet, vegan version. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you, you have you will meet the biggest bunch of assholes in your life who are radical about this on both sides. Oh, vegan people, I don't get away with these people. Oh, you eat honey? Okay, honey. Well, anyway, trust me, because we live in a world of children. We live in a world of children, so help me God. I don't understand it. I don't know why we love to argue with each other. I got into this last night when I told you I got a dear friend of mine I love him to death, but he doesn't know what he's talking. I'm not economic issues with an economist. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about fractional reserved banking with the bankers. Like, that's really not my thing because I've read a couple of articles about it. I don't want to get into deep conversations about the Fed and about derivatives, and I just certain things I think I know. I don't want to get into arguments with people about the JFK assassination who know nothing about it. I talk about people who know nothing about artificial intelligence. They think it's a Roomba or something. They think it's a robot. I guess. They think it's something else. And then whenever you tell somebody about, for example, when I talk about preparewithlionel.com, they say, well, I've got one guy actually told me, he said, I got a fishing pole. He said this. I'll never forget this. It was on a day like today. You got a fishing pole? Yeah, I got a fishing pole. Oh my God. What are you talking about? Oh, the fishing pole. So you think that's going to be, hey, honey, no, right, kids, more perch? Daddy's going out there. It's a radioactive fog, but I'm going to go to the creek and catch us some more fish. I don't know how we're going to store it. There's no power, so eat up. People just immediately challenge you. And I said, can you go a week without food? Oh, well, we've got to. No. They fight you. They don't sit there and say, I don't think I can. Or they'll say, well, we're not going to need to worry about that. Really? There's this stuff. I talked to my friend about, Trump's, they have this thing about Trump stood on the stage for an hour when people were being tended to. Do you think Trump just wanted to dance and play Andre Bocelli? They actually are thinking, and they repeat these things, these tropes over and over and over and over again. So my first advice to you is, number one, tell your daughters, tell your sons, especially if they're voting, do not take a picture of the ballot. Do not pose, I'm voting for the first time. Yay. I don't care what it is, for Kamala or anybody. Don't do it. And then when I tell people, what do they tell me? Well, what's wrong with it? Read the statutes. Read them. They've been talking about this ever since the phone was organized. People will fight me on it. Well, I don't see what the big deal. I'm not asking you whether you think it's a big deal. I'm not asking you. New Jersey has a line that says, you're going to love this. It's against the law. Last time I checked, to suspend or to hang a handicap lanyard, not a lanyard, one of those things, from the rear view mirror. Well, it said you can't hang anything from a rear view mirror. And then another statute said you got to put the handicap thing on there. And one more thing. When I see people driving around, there's a Costco we go to, and they'll drive around and wait with their blinkers on to park this much closer. So the other day, I lost it. We were walking with they have these big carts, and we're walking. And this guy tells me, he stops, he says, are you going to go, are you going to empty, are you going into a handicap spot? I said, I'm walking. I said, why don't you get out of your car and walk? He had no handicap thing. Why don't you walk? Give it a shot. You're going to walk in there. You're walking. I don't know how, what possessed me to do this. I just lost it. I said, you're going to go into this warehouse and spend an hour walking and walking and walking. Not in a cart, not in one of those little mobile things, but you won't park a little bit further just to be in and be done with this. You're driving around for 10 feet closer to go into this huge aircraft hangar warehouse to walk around. Do you know how ridiculous? I don't know what the hell. I don't know why. That's America for you. Bunch of these fat ass waddlers who dress like they just got out of bed wearing skiffs and scuffs and slippers and their big waddling Statutory ass, these dimpled, huge mounds of adipose with their rolls of fat, tender-bellied panis, this paniculus, this, oh, God, bingo wings, tats, crazy, oh, God. That's America. That's America. And what do? They buy bottled water and toilet paper. But I digress. Rule number one, no pictures of your ballots. I think Uncle Lenny's made that safe. Now let's talk about this man. They love Trump. Did you see Trump in Detroit?
And that they love in Detroit is a rapper.
It's a rapper. They call him rap. Call him the rapper. Remember that song? He's a rapper. He sounds like Ed Sullivan right here on our show. Have a rapper with the gold teeth and the dreadlocks. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr.
And he's one of the hottest in the world, actually. Trick. Where's Trick?
Trick.
Trick. Come here, Trick.
Get up here, Trick.
Come here.
Or Trick Deuce.
Maybe we should have him do a little rapping or something, huh?
Rapping.
Come here, look at him. He looks good. He looks good. Wow. You look good.
Now, these folks, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the idea of him meeting Trick, and get a load of the size of some of this. Now, Trump is no frail man himself. Check out Trick. Putting his life, his career, his worth on the line.
What up, though, Detroit?
Did you ever think you would see this? I love it. There's plenty of room in the tent, citizens.
If y'all know about Trick, y'all know I'm about bringing it all to Detroit. So please welcome the 47th President of the United States as we make Detroit great again.
Isn't that beautiful? Doesn't that just kill you?
Thank you very much. That's great. You have some great people here, I tell you. This is a great place.
Here's this guy. He's a billionaire. Doesn't wear a funny cowboy hat. Doesn't pretend to do shots with iron workers in Lansing. He's the real thing. Leslie writes, tell us about Proposal 1 on the ballot. Proposal 1 on the ballot. Well, on the ballot? I don't know what that means. Who knows about Proposal 1? I'll tell you something else which is interesting. Proposal 1. Is this New York Proposal 1? Let me tell you what Uncle Lenny's rule is. Any proposal, any amendment, any referendum, gone. No, that's what legislation is for. That's what the Assembly is, or the Senate, or the House of Representatives, or whatever. That's what they do. Don't ask me. You can't get through the regular legislative process. I vote no on everything. I tend to vote to retain all judges. For the most part, appellate judges and the like, I've got no beef for them. I think the whole merit retention thing is a little strange. I tend to for those. Other than that, no. Penny excise tax, no. What are you asking me for? You're trying to slip this in? No. I don't want to see any referenda. Now let's move on. Let's look at what this great man also has to say in Detroit.
Queen is also demanding a shocking 33% tax hike on all domestic production, along with the largest capital gains tax hike in the history of our country.
Let me see, it's interesting. When do you remember her? When do you ever when do you ever recall how do I say this? Recall what's her face ever asking for, or ever being specific regarding a plan, a percentage, capital gains tax, debt reduction, nothing. She talks about this $25,000 that somehow is going to be paid, which is going to raise the price of houses by $25. But when do you ever hear this? When? When?
In other words, she's going to tax your companies and you out of business. The companies are going to leave, and you're going to end up with the same mess that you've had for the last 40 years. In total, her proposals are estimated to kill almost 1 million full-time jobs. Under Kamala, who knows absolutely nothing about what we're doing, it will be economic Armageddon for Detroit. You go back further, but very simply, we're going to make it great. We're going to make it so good. You're going to have jobs coming in like never before. Under Trump, we'll turn this city into the most powerful jobs magnet in the history of the world.
And this.
In conclusion, with your vote this November, we are going to fire Kamala and we are going to save America. We will teach our children to love our country, honor our history, and always cherish our great American flag. We will cut your taxes, crush inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and create the greatest job boom the world has ever seen. We're going to do that very easily. Very easily. We will hire American, buy American, build American, grow American, and show the whole world that the American dream is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. I will stop the... Absolutely, darling. And I will stop the global theft of American jobs and turn the U.S. into the manufacturing superpower of the world.
That's exactly right. By the way, point of clarification, our good friend Daniel Gaffro says, if you don't vote no on the proposal, they might count it as a yes. Daniel brings up a very good point. I'm sure you are reading ahead of time these proposals ahead of time. I'm sure you are. And sometimes in the old days, they used to have these really weird if you, how do I say this? If you, so just make sure you read those. It's a very good point. Daniel brings up an excellent point. But I will not vote for yes to raise things, to amend. No. Unless they say, do you vote yes not to? One of those. Sometimes you're right. There's that inverted kind of a strange language. What about this weird war on men? How is Kamala doing with Latino men? I'm glad you asked.
Like Kamala Harris is struggling with Latino male voters in Pennsylvania, in the United States of America at that. And let me explain to you why. When you spend the last nearly 10 years attacking men, demasculinizing men, belittling men, there's going to be a response. Kamala Harris currently represents that entire agenda right now in this 2024 election.
Yep.
That is why she's being rejected. Not only is she a bad candidate that has literally the worst policies, she has no substance, she can't even talk. What I'm telling you right now is that men have had enough. That is what is currently happening, particularly Latino men. They don't want to be demasculinized. They don't want to be accused of toxic masculinity every time they are just simply being themselves and being a male in the United States of America. Did you think that there would not be a response to that? Did you think that there would not be some kind of retaliation to that? Did you not think that there would be a consequence to that?
Absolutely.
When the left does this in the media, in culture, in Hollywood, in music, in education, anything you could think of, there will be a retaliation. And what's happening right now is men, especially Latino men, they see that man right there, and they view that as the FU and a response to the last near decade of this political ideology attacking men. So enjoy.
This is where somebody along the way, let me explain to you, and I'm going to tell you something. And this resonated with me the other day like you can't believe. I'm going to tell the story again. I talked to a friend of mine I've not spoken to in a long time. And he, for years, was a part of the very serious comedy world. This is everything from Saturday Night Live to Comedy Central to this, to that, to you name it, to working for individual comedians. He was immersed in the comedy world, Comedy Central roasts and this. Everybody knows who he is. He says, then all of a sudden, he called it and I'm not going to, some people used to always say, well, I'll phrase it. The unmarried cat lady. And that word cat lady really hit home with people. There are gay men and gay women who are completely fine with who they are. You know who they are. I've told you this a million times. We know people, and Americans don't give a damn. You understand this? They absolutely don't give a damn. By the way, you probably noticed the Elon and Musk changed. I've gotten more comments on that from people that you cannot imagine. People have been wanting to correct this all day. I'm going to address this now. I'm going to do this every single time. When I'm doing this thing, I wrote Elon and Trump, and then I thought, and then I meant to change it, and I said, I said Elon and Musk. And before I changed it, I thought, no, I'm going to leave it. I don't know what, I already had it or whatever it was. And people went nuts trying to correct it. They went crazy. And I kept it. I got more comments. Do you mean this? It's like whenever the sounds off. Sounds off. Hey. They don't say anything about anything as opposed to he'll get it. He'll figure it out. So anyway, just want to let you know about that. People are very strange. But just like this, there are some people who are not happy with themselves. And there is a woman, like my friend said, he called them, there's another form of this, but it's the unmarried. They used to call them spinsters and old maids. That they don't use that word anymore. Remember Orville Redenbacher? Look, no old maids. Unpopped corn, unpopped. Jesus, any of it. So these people all of a sudden began to move up the corporate ladder, up to and including entertainment. And all of a sudden, news directors. And we went from Lou Grant as the news director to, Melanie, whatever it is, who has this tight-ass, weird, frustrated corporate sensibility and no sense of imagination. All of a sudden, he found out that jokes that were funny are now too edgy. DEI like you cannot believe. And little by little, bit by bit, these people, the Gretchen Whitmers and others, and women who, now let me explain this to you. Let me see if I can explain this. There are two types of people. And we've always accused them of the source of this particular personality being their sexual inclination. There are people, for example, gay men who are saying, I'm a gay man, okay, fine. I'm a gay man. And then there's hello, and there's that. What is this? There was this group of people one time talking about the downtown club scene and the club kids. And there were these people who walked around, and there was this one guy talking in a way, so help me God. It was from like the 70s. It was from the Fran Lebowitz school when people would hang out at the Odeon in the middle of the night. And it's like it's very weird. And their gender had really not, their sexual preference had really nothing to do with it, but their outward affect did. Very not flamboyant, but loud and annoying. Look at me. Look at me. Can I scare you? Okay. Then we would move, and we used to see the militant. When I say militant, militant's a word we don't use anymore, but it's the lesbian scene. And I've frankly sometimes found militant lesbians easier to get along with than militant gay men because militant lesbian women are quieter. I just don't like people who yell. You don't see a couple of militant lesbians in the old days say, "Hey, ah!" There was no version. There was no Rip Taylor for this. It was kind of like quiet, mild, a little pissed off all the time, but that's fine. I can get along with them much better. And then later on, but they're very quick to refer to men who have never somehow mastered human relationships. They've never mastered that as anything. They're called for some reason incels, involuntarily celibate. But there's this angry, weird woman, and yes, it may theoretically have started by virtue of their sapphic inclination and the like. Their lesbos, whatever. But it's not that. It's an anger. It's a corporate. How many of you heard this? Now, be honest. Show me a number 1 or number 2. All of a sudden, you would say law firms, media companies, Fortune 500. All of a sudden, diversity coordinator, and you think, wait a minute, don't tell me. All of a sudden, diversity. Let me guess, no name yet. They're black, right? Yeah, okay. Black female? Yeah, yeah. All of a sudden, every company, everybody had somebody, and they were always saying, where did they come from exactly? Mm-hmm. Is it somebody who is from any kind of corporate? No. This is just the diversity, the black woman who is going to be in charge of this. And somebody said, there we go. Diversity. You would go to a law firm. We have a diversity. Who cares about this? This is when DEI was in its full glory and the mentality of this. So one day they would have somebody who would come in, and here's a woman, and she's in charge of diversity and whatever it was. And then the next thing you know, people started to say, well, wait a minute. What does this person do? We don't know. It's like HR. Remember, it was personnel, then there was HR. Any of you fine folks ever go to an HR meeting, one of those movies you'd have to attend to, mandatory? This is considered sexual, and this is considered, and this is considered, and this is considered, and a hand on the shoulder. You would be forced to watch these videos. It's like, what is this? And then you'd find out, well, where is the corporate person? Well, she's not here anymore. Why? She was fired. Why? She didn't show up to work, or she didn't get along with anybody, or why? Because she didn't fit into a corporate structure. They picked her because she was black. And they figured, okay, are you satisfied? But she didn't understand working with personalities. She caused the problem. And all of a sudden there's this offset. And then the next thing you know, nobody had fun at corporations because first you got HR breathing down your back if you showed any kind of oh, you look nice to JJ. What do you mean by that? Then you had that part, and you had the you had the the sexual harassment, and then you've got this. We have to automatically offer this job to somebody of color. But they're not experienced. I got a guy here who's doesn't matter. And it started this disaster. I cannot tell you. And I'm going to say something to you, and you're going to say, what? And you either will agree with me or not. There are a number of people based upon different cultures. To wit, a friend of mine, I believe, he was a visiting, was the chemistry professor. I think he might have been in Spain. He was Europe. And he was there at 9 o'clock class. He got there at 1:45. Nobody was there. People came in late. And at that time, he says, you don't understand this. In Europe, punctuality where he was. I cannot speak for it now. This may hold no water now, but it didn't work. It didn't, they were late. He said late. They didn't understand this. They didn't understand this. This is the most important thing in the world. This is the most important thing in the world. And I mean this. There are people and there are cultures and there are folks and there are individuals who by virtue, and we're going to talk about this, who do not understand the corporate structure. And one of them, believe it or not, one of them has to do with punctuality and getting along with people and not necessarily, how do we say this, using their race or their position as a cudgel. And if you pretend that you don't know what I'm talking about, if you honestly are telling me, I don't know what you're talking about, consider yourself lucky. Consider yourself lucky. We live in a world of people. This is very, very important. We live in a world of people. And I say this. Very, very important. I say it. That if you really want to get to understand people, we're going to have to talk about how people vote, how people think, what people say. And this is nonsense. So what am I saying about? These people, these unmarried, cat lady, easily offended, and men as well, weird, who sit on TikTok and describe how nobody can define their sexuality, they decided more than anybody else all of a sudden to set the tonality of the Democratic platform. That's where we got into this. Hello, I'm Rachel Levine. The first one you saw right out of the box got scared the shit out of you. Do you understand this? Do you understand what I'm saying? This is the woman or man, whatever you want to call it, who scared people absolutely out of your mind. Do you remember this one? She scared people. Scared people. And you thought, what is this about? No, listen to me. What is this about? What are we talking about? Then they came along. And before this, do you remember when they were talking about changing bathrooms? Do you remember this? Who remembers this? This is important. All of a sudden, right kind of, they were saying, we have to change bathrooms. Why are you changing bathrooms? Why? Why is intersex bathrooms? Why is trans? And it happened. These people started to write the agenda for the Democratic Party. They would have a toxic masculinity. And what they're doing is they're pitting people against each other. And by the way, I don't appreciate it's one thing to talk about people's gayness, but we don't have to use pejoratives. I know people love, and I appreciate the fact that, especially when you're in, the free speech chat rooms and stuff, you want to say stuff, but you missed the point. You kind of hurt our cause. If you think this is a bunch of pejoratives about lesbians or gays, that's not it. We have to be very careful about this. We don't care about somebody's sexuality. But when you put it as a national platform, that's where this is today. That's where they actually had people coming up using Tim Walz and Slappy Denhoff as somehow the new arbiters of masculinity. Do you hear what this is about? This is the critical thing. This is the most important part. And it's going to pay. And I've been telling you, the number one issue that everybody can get around is not inflation, not the economy, not jobs. Nobody knows what that is. They don't understand it. It's that. It's what it's done. We could have not had anybody we could not have had anybody as annoying as this woman. Now, let me ask you something. Have you seen, you ready this? Some people have suggested she's drinking too much. Somebody thinks really, this is my favorite. Cloward Piven strategy. No, you're really reaching on that one, my friend. You're really not that complicated. Lori Cook says, Levine, the first female commander, a man. Wow. Remember that one? Remember how people said, what is this? This is how it was introduced to you. It was to shock you. But let me ask you something. I was a former DUI, prosecutor years ago. I've seen this a million times. I've been around drunk people my whole life. Been in more bars than anybody can imagine, as have you. We know what a drunk person is. We know what crazy is, and we know what drunk is. Let me ask you something. Is Kamala drunk here?
Own name for a minute. That's what I'm talking about, because it's about you. It's about your family. It's about you. That's what I'm talking about.
What the hell is she talking about? There's something wrong with her. And nobody knows what's going on. They don't know what's happening. They don't understand. They don't grasp it. Now, you want to talk about toxic masculinity? Let's go real toxic.
November 5th, election mania. Choice is yours. You can go with President Trump, Kane, and The Undertaker, or you can take Kamala Harris, Dave Bautista, and Tim Walz. Choose wisely. The nation depends on it.
And that should be an easy choice.
I believe Kane is now the mayor of Knoxville or something. I mean, this is who we are. This is it. This is it. And we could talk about all this stuff, and they are coming out. Have you ever been blocked by somebody on Twitter and you don't even know who they are? I was looking at something today. I want to share this with you. Let me see this. I want to tell you this much, just so that you know. That may not mean that much to you. There was this story. Okay, it was from the Atlantic. Trump is speaking like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. The former president has brought dehumanizing language into American political politics. Written by Anne Applebaum. Anne Applebaum, who was always on like C-SPAN and some of a scholar. I said, this is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. They have lost what's left of their mind. So I went up and looked at Anne Applebaum and said, Anne Applebaum blocked you. I'm thinking, thank you. I thank you for that. Is she a plant? I don't know. But I love this. They are desperate. These are some of the smartest people, historians. I'm saying, you're literally, and I'm using the word correctly, trying to make a juxtaposition between Trump and Mussolini. Come on. What are you doing? Mussolini. Now, by the way, you know who Mussolini's best friend was? Will Rogers. That's all I'm saying. Will Rogers, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I want to read something new. I want to bring something to your attention. And this is something that you might get a little freaked out about. Just a tad. A little freaked out. And for good reason. That's not it. I want to read this to you. Talk amongst yourself. Very good. By the way, just for, I don't know if it matters, but there's some stuff that's out there that is on the out there on the internets, as it were, on the Twitter. And I got to tell you something. There is a real, how do I say this? There's stuff out there that really is anti-Semitic. Really, really is. I mean, has nothing to do with Israel, nothing to do with Gaza, but, and I don't find it necessarily, nothing really offends me, but if I had to be offended by something, it would be that. And the question is, do you let it on? Do you keep it up there? And my opinion is this is anti-Semitic. You know, facial stuff from the 20s and 30s, really just real racist stuff. I think it's good. People should see it. Same thing for black, anti-Semitic, sexism, homophobia. Real. You got to see it sometimes. I don't think people know what real anti-Semitism looks like. Where you hate people because they're Jewish, not because they're Israeli, not because any of that stuff, but you do it because you hate them. You hate them. All right. In any event, I want you to follow this. Listen to this story. And you might have heard this. Effective September 27th. This is what people are saying, and I want you to do your own research. DOD Directive 5240.01 states. Let me get this. Let me see if I can write this in something that's a little bit clearer. Stand by for a minute. There we go. Bear with me. Sorry about that, Chief. Okay. There we go. All righty. Here we go. See if you can follow this. Government officials are threatening to not certify a Trump 2024 win. Have you heard this story? Let me just tell you what's out there, and then we can investigate it. And there's different various folks. Remember Raskin, others said this. Effective on September the 27th, 2024, there's a DOD directive, 5240.01, states in section 3.3 that, quote, defense intelligence components may provide personnel to assist a federal department or agency, including a federal law enforcement agency or a state or local law enforcement agency when lives are in danger. Defense intelligence components may provide personnel to assist federal and state law enforcement. Authorization, it is alleged in these new unearthed documents that were there the whole time, but nobody looked at, for lethal force simply requires the approval of the Secretary of Defense, who would be Lloyd Austin, if you know where he is. I would provide, quote, assistance in responding with assets, military, guns, weapons, a whole bit, with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. This could include another protest over rigged elections, another pandemic, maybe a dock strike. Who knows? It's important to remember that the military follows orders. Remember Waco? That was Delta Force. People have suggested that we're all in with helping the Justice Department and going after protesters. Remember, they also were during the the WTO protests in Seattle. Biden says he expects violence after the election. Anyway, so we're going to be talking more about this, and we can guess all we want about this. But I want you to listen, and you can hear this, and you have to do your research A recent article by the AP stated that the number one predictor of being classified as a mass casualty offender was having a U.S. military background. There's all this stuff. Now, as you know, and we can sit there and I'm always torn between saying, well, we can create this stuff and we can artificially freak people out. And that's never the pursuit of that's never the goal of what I'm saying. But when you hear me say that you've got to prepare for something, when you hear me say this, I'm not saying this to be cute. I'm not, when I talk about disasters, when I talk about the need one day, we will have actual need for a return to militias and the like. I'm not saying it like a lot of people say it just to kind of get clicks and likes and whatever. I'm telling you there is something. There is an undercurrent of people out there. Do you believe that the assassination attempt against President Trump, the first one, was just some random guy who came along out of nowhere and just maybe he was radicalized by whatever, and that they had nothing to do with his motivation? Do you think that? Anybody think that? Do you really want to talk about what's going on here? I've got friends of mine who every time there's any kind of a military, anytime Israel takes out Sinwar or one of the people either from Hamas or Hezbollah, I know people who think this is great. This is, I say, do you understand what's going on here? You don't. You don't. All it takes is this to flip, to take the notion of posse comitatus and remove it. They have just authorized, they have just basically said that distinction, that separation between military and civilian law enforcement, that no longer applies. Do you remember this line? This was Adama. Remember this in Battlestar Galactica? I know that you're going to say, what? I'm going to give you this one line. I'll never forget this. There's a reason you separate military and the police. One fights the enemies of the state. The other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people. And when I try to tell people this, when I try my best to say, now listen to me, they say, oh, there he goes again. There he goes again. And I find myself, and also, this is why I have a private channel. I can just say whatever I want. I can just really just tell you, this is the worst thing I think can happen to you. But you can't say this here because nobody really wants to hear it and people get very upset. Teresa says, Gaimala is saying Trump is planning to use that DOD directive. Well, it wouldn't be her because remember, he is not going to take over until the 20th. And let me also ask you something, Teresa. Who runs the military? One of the reasons why George Washington and all of our founding fathers did not want a standing military was because those are the ones that switched. That's why you need a Praetorian Guard. That's why you need ninjas. That's why they didn't want that. The only thing that our forebears wanted was the Navy. The Navy we could tolerate. The Navy. Everything else is a different story altogether. Do you remember years ago, and I was on TV at the time, and I said that the Social Security Department had bought hundreds or maybe millions of rounds of ammo? It wasn't the Social Security Department. They were the there was a it was a website that allowed you to see what was procured. They were the conduit. They were the straw man that would go into others. Do you remember the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act? No. This was the one that took all of the military. It took all of the military and all of the MRAPs and all of this stuff that we didn't use, and they were going to give it to cities and individual police until cities said, you can't do that. They're tearing up our streets and you can't have these big clunky. There was a time when the police were becoming very militarized, the hyper militarization of the police. This was before. Then the incels and the cat ladies came in, and it was defund the police. It was put fat, out of shape, DEI people in the police, in the front lines, standing on corners, looking at their phones with fingernails out to here, Cardi B lenses, and looking like they couldn't work. And you've seen it before. It's to emasculate, to disempower police. Teresa Skinner says it is Biden who issued that directive because this election may cause civil unrest. Yeah, this is not Trump. This is, look at where this comes from. This is effective 2020, September 27th, 2024. This is Directive 2401. This is where this is. And I can show you. There's all kinds of great and wonderful stuff about this. There's a Department of Justice memo saying that people who have conspiracy theories that the CIA arranged for 9/11 to legitimize the invasion of foreign lands need to be considered as potential terrorists. This is old news. Remember the MIAC report? In 2009, Homeland Security issued a report that listed returning Afghanistan and Iraq military vets as potential terrorist risks, and that right-wing extremism may include groups opposed to abortion. Remember the leaked bulletin from the Coast Guard describing militia members and patriots as white supremacists? And don't you remember this one? Remember the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping? I mean, this is there's too much for people to jump. They believe me when you tell people this, they're saying, don't bother with this. You're not gonna. There's no end to it. But if you want probable cause, do you remember what happened to the Tea Party groups? Remember the MIAC report where they would say stop people who have, you could stop people people driving who have flags and who show excessive patriotism. Do you want me? Do I really have to go through and explain to you how they weaponized people who believed in patriotism? This was right around, who believed in mobilization, who started showing up at rallies. And do you remember this? See, it's the informational vectors within the intel groups that are the most important. I could go on, but I'm wasting my time because most people look at me and go, oh, okay. Remember, if you do what I do, you got to know which hill to die on. Pick the hill you want to die on. Most people do not know what you're talking about. They're not going to go anywhere near what you're saying. They're not interested in going near what you're saying. They just don't. They don't care. How do I say this? So when you hear me talk about things, and I'm telling you right now, when you hear me say this, and I've brought this up a number of times, and you've heard me, but when I have mentioned, like prepare with Lionel, this food and water and energy and having water supplies and having generators and all of this, it's the first thing they do is they say, well, this is crazy talk. Why? Because they know it's true. They know it's true. They demonize you either because of your religion, because of your race, because of your, it's very simple. We kind of do it too. We do it too. It's a natural thing. People tend to kind of mock other people. It's what these folks do. And let me tell you something. There has to be a balance. And there are very few people I can meet. Tell you, I had one the other day. I had a friend of mine. And he is, this guy, I've known him forever. Military. Years ago. Ranger, Army officer, the whole bit. We were talking. And we were talking about our friends, mutual friends in Florida. And the notion of weather weaponization came up. Weather modification. And I said, do you think that you as a lieutenant colonel, light colonel, or a captain, or a major, whatever it is, do you think you're going to be privy to the highest level of behind the wall, black box, really serious stuff? Do you think they're going to do that to you? Seriously? Do you think you are going to be privy to the most important information ever? Do you think somebody in the course of your Army stay is going to let you know about things like weather modification, about Project Cirrus, Project Storm Fury, Operation Popeye, cloud seeding, solar radiation management, carbon dioxide removal? We've been talking about this. I said, do you think anybody's going to? No. When you talk about weather modification, especially from people who look at you and they say, look, first of all, you're listening to this show, number one. Number two, you're a Trump supporter. Number three, you're probably a white guy and you're crazy. You don't understand what's going on. And the level of ignorance, I'll tell you this much. I got a friend of mine, nice guy. He's so afraid, Jewish, and he's very, he's not a Zionist, whatever that means. That word is so dangerous because it's misapplied. But anyway, he says, I'm so afraid of anti-Semitism. Somebody may, bonk me on the head because, if Trump's elected, I said, schmuck. I said, Trump is like this with Adelson, Jared Kushner. By the way, speaking of toxic masculinity, where's Jared Kushner? He's been hiding, and for good reason. Keep him out of here. He's like the lizard people. He's reptilian. He's creepy. Same thing with Ivanka. Keep him out of there. You notice that? Keep him out of there. And where's Kimberly Guilfoyle? Has she calmed down? Have they settled with her? She's not going to drop any surprises. I hope not. I hope somebody's paying attention to her because she and Don Jr., you know how that goes. But I digress. I said, don't you understand that the person who is really, if this matters to you, the person who was so anti-Israel, so anti-Bibi, is, of course, Gamala. She's a part of the squad. She didn't even meet with Bibi Netanyahu. If this is what if you think Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, I mean, what are you talking about? I know you hate Trump, but do you understand what it is? Adelson just dropped $100 million. Do you pay attention? Is your hatred of Trump so great that it outweighs your, I don't want to say Judaism or Israeli focus or Zionism, whatever the word is. And I say this not pejoratively, but this is how demented they are. He doesn't even know who's who. I said, let me tell you something. If Trump wins, anybody who bonks somebody there for being a Jew is going to get the death penalty. The only reason you're having all this bullshit, as you would say, at college campuses with Claudia Gay and everything, who are deciding, well, is that anti-Semitic? It's because you have a democratic regime. That's why you have this. You've got these DEI people there, these cat ladies. Remember Claudine Gay? She looked like Urkel. This one, you know what you've got. Claudine Gay, DEI, classic, plagiarist. Come on, man. Harvard, do you not know what's going on? They don't even understand this. So that's why I give up. Let me tell you something. And you listen to me and listen good. If I brought you into a room, like a skiff, one of those, And I said, leave your phone out there. You're going to take no notes. No notes. Just listen. We're going to show you the truth. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Who runs what? Where would you like to start? Where would you like to start? Do you want to go to 9/11? A lot of people don't really care about that because that was, that's 33 years ago. Nobody, it's too far back. Okay, but you might want to start with that. That's a great one. Because remember, it's not the event, it's the motivation of opinion, it's the change of perception. That's the brilliant part. They killed John Kennedy in front of everybody and basically told you no. They whacked that guy in New York. Remember the guy? Remember that feller who name begins with an E? It was such a hit. They put him in a cell with a killer who was looking at the death penalty, who somehow now is off death row. And next thing you know, it's so obvious. And when you tell people this, they look at you, and because either they've lived such a very simple life or an innocent life, or they don't have any imagination, they look at you like you're crazy. You have no idea the level of evil, as you would say, who are running the show, and they can go into attack mode like that. They're always planning. And as great and as glorious as we are, our side, whatever our side is, we don't have these people. You live in a world, not you, I'm talking to the rest of the people. They live in a world of Fox News and Newsmax. They think Peter Doocy and Sean Hannity and Newt Gingrich and Typhoid and Gut Bucket and maybe Breitbart or maybe the guy that might be the most spot on in terms of being able to be the best news director is Alex Jones. But he's portrayed as a lunatic because of Sandy Hook. You know what that's about. Now, we're not going to relitigate that. But that's the kind of stuff Paul Joseph Watson, other people as well, natural. These people go into it. You've been conned, another one too, by Bobby Kennedy Jr. He hasn't said anything. He's a limited hangout. A limited hangout, for those who don't know, is the person that you bring out who says, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you the story about everything from mRNA to vaccines, whatever. And they tell you a little bit, hiding the big stuff. And you think you know it all because of the little stuff. And that assuages your fears. It fills you up. It lets you know, like, okay, good. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. The most important issue right now, what's going on in Israel, what you know, and what's happening is the greatest example of holy shit. The world is seeing it. I've never seen the people who live in a bubble. You don't even know what's happening there. You don't know. And these are the same people who say, I can't believe there was a time in this country where nobody knew about the Holocaust. You don't even know what's going there. You have no idea. You just get these kind of stories about AI. Forget it. Forget it. I will never live long enough to see not the resurgence, but the appearance of the type of intellectual government warrior that I need to attack this. This is a person who is like Delta Force, intellectual Navy SEAL, whatever word you like, SAS, Spets, not whatever the Russian CIA or military is. We need a new group of people who have been trained to be suspicious, who are trained to understand it, who have a real sense of tactics, who understand what the enemy is, who know what to look for. It's just, and Trump's is close to it, but we're not even close. And the best part about it is that the shadow government is laughing their ass off, thinking they think Trump won. Well, he might have won. Doesn't matter to us, one way or the other. We still run everything: the military, intel, big tech, big pharma, big agra. What you eat, what you breathe, what you think. Trump has never mentioned geoengineering one time. He's never asked, what are they spraying? No interest. Never. I don't want to say he's a bad guy. I'm going to vote for him no matter what. Does he ever talk about this? No. One time he was talking about 6G Wi-Fi. This is going to be the greatest thing. All he's talking about is Wi-Fi reception. He has no idea what's going on. He honestly could not have imagined when the Rona came about. He could not have imagined. He's very good on certain things, very good on tariffs, very good on very specific foreign relations, but on the big picture, on the really complicated, deep levels of, as you would say, evil, that's why he needs us. He needs to have a division of intellectual news, information ninjas that nobody ever sees. We don't go to the White House. We don't report to anybody. Some Elon pays us on the side. We work with Elon and we say, this is what's happening. We're going to all of a sudden change information vectors to change what's going on. Give me one, let me do this. Give me one blockbuster movie. Let's assume it's on the 11th day of the 9th month, 23 years ago, okay? I put out a movie. I'm in charge of Hollywood. I put out a movie. I then tell all of my people of big tech that I own, this is the greatest movie. I create the thought vector that this has rechanged history. Another series of ads or stories come out to say that the end of the conspiracy theories were right. I changed the focus of this. I start bringing we're going to catch our own Hollywood types in blackmail. Oh, two can play that too. We know who they are. Oh, we can get them. I'm not against using them. Oh, absolutely not. You're going to work for me now. And you're going to come. And in I'd say 6 months, but not even that. Maybe in a month, I'm going to turn everybody. Nobody will believe the official story of what happened on that Tuesday morning. Like that. And I just change everything. But you can't know who I am. And you can't hear about this. You're going to say, where did this come from? And Elon knows. All of a sudden say, where did this come from? They won't know, where did this come from? Where did this come from? And then I also want to change the stories about how church and small churches of all denominations. I want to have a story of little pockets of communities, Catholics meeting with Presbyterians and Protestants and Muslims and Hindus, all getting together. The new ecumenicism, the new whatever it is. And I put my word and I change the way people, and I make prayer and faith popular again by virtue of changing the intellectual vectors, the opinion vectors. I change this. I don't fire a shot. Nothing. Then I have a new vector that says the end of the demise of the political party. The political party means nothing to me. The political party, and by the way, and how people in the world, the Charlie Cooks, the Ben Shapiros, all these people, I'm sorry to say this, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, they're in it for themselves. But they're selling you something you want to hear. Patrick Ben-David, go down the list. These are the new information and opinion tycoons. And they don't care about anything. Tim Pool, they don't care anything about the bottom line. Ann Coulter, they didn't exist before the internet. The people who did were the Murdochs. And now you have all these other people. So I want you to hold them accountable. I want you to hold them accountable and recognize the fact, well, they are the P.T. Barnum, and they go after your hopes and your dreams. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but it's their motivation, because they will never veer off really deep. They're limited hangouts. They'll give you enough. Tucker tantalizes you with information, but doesn't really go into it. What he did with UFOs, it was a joke. He, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and others, they're Weinsteining you. They're pulling an Eric Weinstein. They're just kind of confusing you. And it's a limited hangout. They're thinking, you think that Elizondo with the Tic Tac, and you think that's the information. You haven't learned anything. That's a limited hangout. No. I will never see what I'm talking about, but I know it's coming. I know it's coming. You will not recognize, and you will know, and we will have a way of talking to people. When we meet each other, you always have to have a means of communicating with somebody who is, it goes back to wrestling, who's smart, who's Smeazard. And what you do is when you meet, you have a word you say. It's a shibboleth. It's a way of, it's a phrase. It's a handshake. Whether you're in a community, whether you're you got a key fob, whether you have a lanyard, whether you have a secret handshake and you're in the fraternity, whatever it is, you have to be able to communicate. The mob does it, friend of mine, friend of ours. The IRA had it, because they had to be very careful. When they would go out on an operation, they would wear a particular article of clothing. They didn't know who was who. We got to be able to understand this. And we also have to weed out the frauds. And there are frauds in us. And we have to re-educate people. You can't be wowed by this silly Candace Owens story about whether Kamala is black. It's interesting. It's kind of People magazine stuff, but that doesn't matter. That's not the issue. You also have to realize, too, if you're going to be double-crossed, it's going to be by somebody you know. I don't trust Bobby Kennedy as far as I can throw him, because he is a guy who never even pulled the lid off of who killed his father and his uncle. Do you not understand who these people are? Do you really think that Bobby Kennedy is the rogue Kennedy? Do you believe this bullshit about, even his family turned on him? Come on. They are so entrenched. They are so deep state. It's not even funny. Where did they get their money from? Where? Joe Kennedy's massive what? These people don't work. Where do you think these people come from? Where do you think Oprah gets her billions? She's not a billionaire. Who do you think runs the show here? Who do you think? This is a Potemkin village you're given. You have this idea of who's who and who's whatever it is. Now, President Trump, he's good, and I'm voting for him, but he could be so much better. He could be so deadly to other people. He may not make it out alive. They may say, okay, that's enough. Because believe it or not, even Trump knows I can't expose everything. Remember, you got to have something to barter with. If I expose everything, there's no reason for you to deal with me anymore. I've got to be able to deal with you. I've got to negotiate with you. You know, if you're a loan shark and you kill me, you don't get the money. But if you hurt me, you'll at least give me an incentive to work with you. So there's got to be a balance. You think Jared Kushner knows what's going on? Do you think Vivek Ramaswamy, listen to me, knows what we know? Does he even think like we do? Of course not. There is no, I guarantee you, there is no Trump Delta Force behind the scenes who tells him, okay, this is what's going on. He doesn't think like that because he's never been in the government before. I guarantee you who did know this, Nixon. Nixon was from the days of Alger Hiss. He was on committees. They knew this. The people from World War II, Eisenhower, probably the best. The people who, there was a time when our government worked in coordination with the mafia, the LCN, Vito Genovese, Johnny Roselli, everything from Barbarossa to actually Castro and what. I mean, it was really great. John, the days of the Dulles brothers are over. Who do we have now? Who? Pete Booty Giggity Giggity? Who do we have? Anthony Blinken? Come on. We don't have that talent anymore. They don't think. These guys were from the OSS. They're from World War II. They were hardcore. They were intel. Bill Casey was probably the last of the real. This guy was so good that when he would go to meet with various foreign people, he would leave listening devices. He had this little thing he would leave in a couch or a sofa. Just so you could, I mean, these guys were spooks. And the best thing is to get rid of this DEI. I don't know what the hell that's about. That's just a joke. So in any event, my friends, just sit back. These are very, 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 very good times. I don't want to overload you with this stuff. But believe me when I tell you this. When I talk about prepare for stuff, prepare with, for crackdowns and civil unrest, not civil war, because they always give you a taste of it. Antifa, BLM. They tempted you with they say let's threaten this longshoreman strike. Let's scare them. Let's do that. Okay. You've had enough. I've had enough. For now. I know what I'm talking about. Teresa Skinner, thank you so much. Stan Lippman, ladies and gentlemen. Stan says, I made the mistake of not drinking enough to be social. As a physicist, I needed to save brain cells. As a lawyer, I didn't. Thank you so much. Lori says, is she a... Oh, you already did one. Lori Cuck, thank you, Leslie. Okay, my friends, we have a lot to talk about. Get ready. Investigate the deal. Investigate this. Get off your ass today and investigate. Use the power of the internets. Look, go to places, go to sites that will at least give you the storyline to send you off. You're not going to learn about this on Breitbart or on the Fox News channel or Newsmax. You're not going to hear this. They are absolutely not limited hangout, but they're almost like they're shills. They're controlled opposition, whatever you want to call it, whatever dystopian word you want. All right, dear friends, we love you. Have a great day. Don't forget, preparewithlionel.com. And at the Cutting Room on October the 26th, a week from today, the day before President Trump's triumph at Madison Square Garden, I'm going to be at the Cutting Room. The information is on here. Be there. You are not going to believe what we're going to talk about. Nobody else does what we do. Nobody. And you can say, well, maybe it's maybe because it's not that good. I don't think that's the reason. But nobody does this. That's all. All right, my friends, have a great and glorious day. Don't forget to follow Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors. And also, don't forget our sister channel, too, Lionel Legal. We'll see you tonight at 7. I gave you a lot to think about. You don't even know the half of it. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. Don't forget the monkey's dead. The show's over soon. Dead.